Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. Today we will talk about Ukraine. Modi Saab jate hain. Modi Saab goes there and he tries to tell them, "Yaar, guys, calm down. Jara ladai shadai band karo." But Ukrainians have another plans. Ukrainians today have attacked Russia's today, day after, yesterday, the before that. They've been hitting hard at Russia. Yahan tak ki they've been hitting out at their ammunition depots and that stupid little offensive that they did. So let's see what's the game. Let's try and understand from Major General Prabdeep Singh. Sir, namaskar, good evening, welcome to the show.
Good evening, Adi. Good to be back after a gap of a
Likewise,
couple
sir.
of weeks. I know it's
आप
we're
busy थे,
talking
sir.
in the.
Otherwise, we were supposed to do it the very next week.
I know. Yes, Ukraine remains in the news and will always continue to remain in the news because this is, as I've always said, this is the change maker of world's geopolitics,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And September, as it is a very important month where the UN General Assembly meets up and the heads of state go and discuss uh, major issues. There are the General Assembly sessions, then there are meetings on the sidelines which take place. So all the heads of state काफी busy रहते हैं इस वक्त न्यूयॉर्क में. So September is always a important month. In the entire this particular General Assembly meeting and in the world, this Ukraine remains an issue which needs to get resolved,
Hmm.
which needs to end, provided people want to end it. Right?
You
So,
threw a truth bomb right at the beginning, sir.
yeah. So, फैक्ट है कि यूक्रेन की लड़ाई बंद होनी चाहिए. कौन बंद कर सकता है, कैसे बंद होगी, इसकी खाली चर्चा होती है. दिस इज ओनली डिबेटेड, एंड दिस इज ओनली बीइंग टॉक्ड अबाउट. बट जमीन पे what we see is an escalation.
Yeah.
Today is the 937th day. मतलब
Yikes.
937 दिन हो गए इस लड़ाई को चलते हुए. और मतलब by the end of the year we would have crossed 1,000 days. So ये कितने दिन की लड़ाई होगी और how will it be known as? Will be known as a 1,000-day war or a 1,100-day war or 2,000-day war? One cannot really say at the moment. एक तरफ you have on one side you have Russia, pushing the eastern front to that important place called Pokrovsk,
Hmm.
which is the nerve center, but not the nerve center, which is a communication center,
Big junction point. Hmm.
big junction point. हम in the military parlance we will call them as nodes. It's a nodal, it's a node or it's a communication center.
Hmm.
A node is a place where all the communication arteries, काफी roads, railways मिलती हैं आके, and that becomes a communication center. So this is what Pokrovsk is. Now, the advance towards Pokrovsk is happening at a rather fast pace.
Yeah.
और this pace is fast because of the stupidity of the Ukrainians to having gone into Kursk.
Hmm.
Had they
ज़्यादा
not
पिटाई
gone
हुई.
into had they not gone into Kursk and had they utilized this new equipment that they had got, the newly trained soldiers that they had got, for defensive purposes, maybe this would not, the Russian offensive pace would have been much lesser. मगर आज की तारीख में the pace is fast. Kursk offensive is nearing its peak. Actually, it has already peaked. There is not much advance. It is, on the contrary, it is the Russian counteroffensive which is taking place, which they are slowly taking back the captured areas. तो वहाँ कुछ ज़्यादा फर्क पड़ा नहीं है. And Kursk offensive going and Pokrovsk. What is the aim of the Russians? The aim of the Russians was to take Donbass.
Hmm.
By carrying out this Kursk offensive, they have made it very simple for the Russians to achieve their objective, primary objective. Primary objective, Donbass, that can be easily obtained now. and we will see it materializing. Of course, the Ukrainian army is digging down. Has, they're already making trenches and things like that.
Hmm.
But interestingly, हमने one of the podcasts में हमने जब one of these sessions we had discussed that Russia should not be, a good army would not be banging its head in and getting involved in urban warfare and to fighting in the city.
Hmm.
You just have to cut down the arteries. जितने भी लाइंस ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन हैं उनको ब्लॉक कर दो, इनको ट्रैप कर दो, फिर उसके बाद keep ठोकविंग them and bringing them down, making them surrender. And then you keep progressing your operations. They will survive for some time, and after that, they have to raise their hands because they have been encircled. So, this is precisely what the Russians have started doing, right? So, they're establishing cauldrons around the towns and villages, dealing with them slowly, but moving ahead.
Hmm.
So this is what if you recollect, we talked of isolation and investment and all that. So they are isolating these locations and moving forward, leaving forces which are behind, and then these isolating forces will start investing. They'll start closing in on these villages slowly and slowly. So ये tactics adopt हो रही है. तो ये this war at the moment now, as far as the Russians are concerned, they are an organized army fighting a disorganized conglomeration of various forces trained to a very minimal degree.
Correct.
They're all people who've been picked up from the villages, and their average age is around in the 40s, 45 or so, 44, 45 is their average age of a soldier. Now, if that is the kind of material that, man material that they are facing, you can have the best of machines, but until unless you have the man behind the gun who is well trained, and until unless the entire machinery is well oiled, wars cannot be fought. And to think of winning a war is also should be a distant dream. Now the tactics, or I won't say the tactics. This is what we're talking. We're looking at the strategy which they're wanting to employ. First, going to Kursk, try and draw forces from there and divert forces. That looks very good on paper. It looks very good on sand models and on table exercises. But when it comes to executing on ground, remember the enemy is as smart as you. The Russians are much smarter in the sense because they're an organized army which is fighting a war.
Hmm.
Here, Ukrainian army has to be assisted by NATO forces. NATO forces themselves are a mix of various countries. They may have a common doctrine, but fact remains that it cannot be so well oiled. Chalo, coming to the next phase, next part of it, long range weapons.
Hmm.
Right now, how you fight a war is you fight from not from front to deep inside. You start fighting from a deeper area and then bring it to a closer area,
Hmm.
right? So it is in the initial stages itself that the war should have been, they should have struck deep. When I'm saying struck deep, today you are striking an ammunition depot, right? You want to strike airfields. That's what their aim is. From where the glide bombers which are there, which are taking on glide bombs, they want to target those airfields. They want to target the energy infrastructure of Russia. Russia is already doing it. Russia is targeting airfields. Russia is targeting infrastructure, energy infrastructure. Uh, Russia is targeting, I mean, cities for whatever. And they're being called criminals while doing that. Obviously, when they're targeting a particular building, they have some intelligence about that building. They're not just pounding it blindly. There has to be based on some this thing that this particular building is housing. Because remember, all your electronic emissions are getting picked up.
Yep.
All the viewers must also understand that there is something which we do. Every emitter, every emitter gets picked up. Every frequency gets picked up. That's what electronic warfare is all about, right? Now, with you want to use deception measures. Even while carrying out deception measures, you have to emit some messages. A deception is not complete without emitting false or a proper message. It may be false, it may be this thing, but it has to be as per a plan. So what I'm trying to say is that every emission is picked up. So every emission is picked up, and then that point has been pointed. You have the grid reference, you have the coordinates, and that is how it gets bombed. It's not just not कि blindly एक building को bomb कर दिया, उसमें बच्चे हैं, बच्चे मर गए. There has to be something about it.
Method to the
Right?
madness.
Yes. Now, the Russia has been doing it deliberately. They're striking deep. They're striking, the infrastructure. They're striking the airfields, all that. This is what the Ukrainians also want to do, but they do not have the wherewithal. The wherewithal has to come from the United States or from the NATO countries or the supporting countries or those 50 odd countries which are supporting the war. Now, if that thing has to come, in my opinion, Ukraine is very much, since it's at war with Russia, it is very much entitled to strike any target it feels like. ठीक है? I, the US provides me a missile system. I use it the way I want to use it on a target which I want to use it. After all, but the beauty of the whole thing is, and the Russian argument to counter this is, he says, who are the people who will man this equipment? Who are the people who will fire this equipment?
And track
Who,
it.
who, who are the people who will give the intelligence for the targets?
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, Ukrainian demand is legit. If Russia can do it, I'm fighting a war with Russia, I should be able to do it. But the point remains, whose soldiers are going to be operating, as I said, who's providing the intelligence, who is going to operate, where are they going to be based, where are the F-16s going to be based if they're going to fire the Storm Shadow air-launched missiles. So if the F-16s are going to take off from Romania and from Poland and fire from Ukrainian territory, but they're taking off from Romania or Poland, so obviously Romania and Poland are party to the war,
रुकेंगे.
right? Who's flying the aircraft? So obviously there will be a retaliation from the Russian side because I mean the base is in Russia, is in Romania, or is in Poland, or any other country, you know. So this is where the thing is. Ukrainian is crying out horse, good, but they fail to understand this. By asking permission is good. Maybe you'll be, and that is why this has not been cleared so far. You understand? Now let's get back to history. But when we were talking of tanks, Leopard tanks and Challenger, the UK and Germany, there was a lot of debate: should our tanks go in or not? Right? And then the same kind of rhetoric was coming from the Russian side. When they came in, Russia did nothing. Russia actually enjoyed destroying them. The moment they came in, Russia's okay. Initially, Russia kept objecting and kept causing like objecting to it. Those people were very reluctant to give it. Once they gave, they were employed, and the Russians destroyed and enjoyed destroying them. And some of them they tore back and showcased. And there was, of course, technology. They go in deep into technology and taking out stuff. And all. Similarly, when it comes to F-16s, there was a lot of hooah about F-16s. Then a decision was taken last August. Yes, we will give out F-16s, right? In I think 31st of July, the first batch of F-16s arrived, of which one has crashed, and that little controversy took place. बट
It's actually,
आज की तारीख में कोई F-16 की बात नहीं करता है. कहाँ है वो?
सर, इतनी बेवकूफी कौन कर सकता है कि सर आप F-16 देते हो और अपने ही सिस्टम में F-16 के कोड लगाने भूल जाते हो और
That's
अपना
what
ही सिस्टम, आई मीन इट्स लाइक फ्रैटिसाइड.
it is fratricide.
गॉड
But
सेक्स.
my point is, where are the F-16s?
एक है, एयर शो करता होगा वो.
क्या करता? कुछ नहीं करता. Where the rest of them? So I'm giving examples of the previous ones. I'm talking about the tanks. I'm talking about the F-16s, where Russia kept throwing that this, you're crossing my red line, crossing the red line. Now again, that thing is coming. Putin has made a very, very clear statement in St. Petersburg that if these long-range weapons, these missiles are provided, that is, the Storm Shadows provided, or the ATCMS or ATACMS are provided, they are. It means that NATO countries are directly involved, and it means a direct confrontation between NATO and Russia. And if you recollect, every time there is a meeting, President Putin issues out statement before the meeting only. This is how smart they are. This is how smart they are. That there is, even before the meeting takes place and even before the outcome of the meeting, there is a element of threat which is put out, and then that meeting fizzles out. Right? So whatever comes out in the media goes counter. It leads to a negative this thing. So what are the options for Russia?
दैट्स इंपॉर्टेंट.
But Russia करेगा क्या? Supposing you give them permission, okay, you go ahead and use. What will Russia do? He's already throwing a threat of there is. They say that it's going to carry out a nuclear test. There are rumors to suggest that Russia will carry out a nuclear test to show them. I'm just trying to recollect as to when the last nuclear test was carried out.
1970,
एक मिनट मैंने कहीं लिख रखा है.
70s or early 80s, sir. After that, they signed
Yeah,
the INDF treaty.
correct. So
उसके बाद, हाँ.
yeah, so there is a likelihood of a nuclear test which may get carried out by Russia.
Yikes.
So that's one. Okay. Now, what else can he do? What else can he do is he can target the Romanian and Polish airfields. I mean, it becomes a legit target. Now, if that happens, then it's a risk. The risk is that the conflict gets escalated. The supply of these equipment, of this missiles, results in the escalation of a conflict, primarily leading to a greater involvement of many countries, direct involvement. That scales it up to that World War III kind of a threshold, that level would be reached. And other thing is that if these guys do not permit the use of missiles, then Russia is vulnerable.
Either way is win-win. Interesting.
Either way is win-win. So when you look at the Russian, I mean, the way they are going about it is much more defined, well balanced. What is happening on the other side? This is a political turmoil. You don't know it is Harris or whether you don't know it is Trump.
Hmm.
Biden says something, does something. God knows whether he's actually in power or not, and who's making him say it.
I
Right?
think Kamala was in power all this while, so no wonder.
God knows who was in power, but the fact is that today the American politics is a big mockery, and we really do not know as to what is going to be the outcome. Anthony Blinken can keep coming and going, but unless he gets it, passed, nothing's going to happen. You look at UK. Someday you're dealing Rishi Sunak, who's busy hugging friend Zelensky, and tomorrow he's not there. He's non-entity. He's buying groceries at a grocery store. So this, and whosoever they say has shaken hands with Zelensky is kind of ousted. So so there are a lot of so the politically EU is not stable, economically Europe is not stable, Americans are not stable. So whereas Russia continues to remain stable, right? Russia continues to build up its association with China is increasing. It's getting its missiles from Iran, and there's a lot of hoo-ha about if Iran can provide missiles to Russia, and Russia can use it. That means Iran is a party to it, so we should be able to attack Iran.
Oh God, these
You
guys.
understand? So if the Iranians are involved and the North Koreans are involved, and if the Chinese are involved, so everybody must get sanctioned, and everybody must kind of so. So what are the Iranians doing? Iranians, because of what's happening in Gaza, are screwing the shit out of these guys, whether it is through Lebanon or whether it is through Red Sea or wherever it is, making the cost of shipping very high. Earlier, remember there was a Suez Canal where the ship had got stuck, and then everybody had to go diverted, and the
गांठ लगी
cost of
थी.
shipping,
Hmm. Hmm.
cost of shipping had gone high. So the simple after that Suez Canal, now the Red Sea. So this particular route has basically become defunct, right?
Except for Russia, China, and India.
Except
Only
for
three.
Russia, China, yeah. then, then on the other hand, you have BRICS growing in stature.
Yeah.
BRICS growing in stature. 34 countries wanting to join. Even yesterday, Pakistan has raised its hand that they also want to be part of BRICS. Obviously, if you're smart, if you're a smart country, you will want to with BRICS because you find the other side is a dying. The dollar is fading. The green color is fading out of the dollar.
Hmm.
So it's becoming light green. It's become lighter and lighter. So once the shine goes away and the paper doesn't feel so good, so they're going to be shifting towards something else. So people have started seeing as to where the world is headed. So such kind of dynamics are happening. Will India be able to influence and bring about peace in Ukraine is something that we got to see.
So let's, if I may just stop you right here, sir.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting game India is playing. Because, you've been troubling India in its neighborhood and its stuff that which is dear to India. Now, ये बड़ा interesting है. Modi साहब has said, okay, fair enough. तुम ये कर रहे हो. I will now trouble you in a place that you find very dear.
Yeah.
And funnily speaking, he's created a space for himself also, where both Ukraine and Russia are saying, हाँ ठीक है यार, इसके साथ बात कर सकते हैं.
You see, I
The
while
Americans,
I
by the way, sorry, the
yeah,
Americans continue saying ki, oh, any country that can help. They've not said India, so they're not happy with the factor that India is actually interfering in this thing. You can make out the military industrial complex is still okay. हाँ, ठीक है यार, India sorts it out, fair enough. Defense Department is pro India कि भाई sort it out, help us. State Department is not willing to accept कि भाई India कुछ कर सकता है यहाँ पर.
you see there is a certain amount of disdain
Yeah.
which is existing in the State Department vis-a-vis India, because India's foreign policy, whenever they have tried to kind of subdue it and condemn it,
It's become stronger.
it has become stronger, and India has always stood out much more. I mean, recognized and acknowledged by the world. Today, is America acknowledged? I'm so sorry, it isn't.
No, not at all, sir. Absolutely.
Everybody, I mean, what has happened primarily is, I must, make it clear. Till about 10 odd years back, a decade and a half, I would put it just one decade behind. We're not taking it very far. It is the advent of social media. It is the advent of the internet. Of course, internet's there for a long time, but the mass penetration of internet down to the grassroots level all across the world, especially in the global south. People have started recognizing, people have started reading, people have been exposed to the lies, they have been exposed to the propaganda, and they're intelligent enough to be able to sift between the reality and what has been propagated.
Hmm.
So now they are making very, very, conscious decisions for the sake of their people, for the sake of their country. Now, what is happening in Burkina Faso, and that Captain Saab is booted out the people. He said, "Hell with your gold reserves," and I mean, we are the ones who will decide. Obviously, why? Because these guys are exposed. They went abroad, they studied, they came back, and today they have access to all media. So the global south is rising. So today's statement by our external affairs minister in the UN, he says that nothing will go unchallenged by the rule. Any the rule breakers, and the rule takers. And he mentioned the rule breakers and the rule. He says you talk about rule based order, right? But people who are talking rule based order are the biggest rule breakers. And today, the rule takers, erstwhile rule takers, are going to be challenging the rule breakers. He's made it very, very clear. It's worth watching commentary.
वो जिनीवा वाला ना सर?
हाँ.
वो तो
So
2-3 दिन पुराना है, but yeah, fantastic speech.
that's a fabulous speech.
Yes,
That
sir.
sums up everything, right? Now, what I'm trying to say is that India is respected. India is the voice of the global south. We have just finished with the third summit, the voice of global south. So अमेरिका की इज्जत खत्म,
Hmm.
चाइना की तो थी नहीं, right? Russia is Russia. I mean, we're not talking Russia as a big player in the world, but definitely today India is emerging as the biggest player. Now, your point is that because we got fingered and we are getting into Ukraine, it's a balance.
Hmm.
It's a balance. Now we will see as to you finger us in this art. Actually, I would say it's the other way around. It is because we have been getting recognized and we are rising power and we are rising economically and we are being recognized more. Trouble is being created around us to bring us down.
They're at least trying.
They're trying. So when they are trying and we recognize it and we know it that they are trying, we have to be even more aggressive in our stance and say, okay, we'll be the one who we'll broker peace for you. And Russia, of course, is friends. Ukraine is also friends. So that is where it is. Now let's see as to how exactly this peace is brought about, and that is something that we got to watch.
Yep.
And whether the Trump's plan, Trump also has a plan, huh?
Before sitting in office.
Before sitting in office, and his running mate, he has made it clear as to what the plan is. The plan is exactly what Mr. Vladimir Putin wants: ceasefire on the existing lines, declaration of a buffer zone, and a promise of not joining NATO. That is Trump's plan.
Yeah, well,
And that is actually the most practical plan.
sanest way. Yes, sir.
That's the only way it's going to end.
Yep.
You agree to this, or you keep losing more territory. That's how it is.
Absolutely. The funny thing is that the whole structure of the world today is being challenged, and you can see that I call them the Ghera Rajya. You can see them flustered today. The way that they are responding to various different things around the place. Like look at Bangladesh. They did what they did. Now they don't know. The damn country has gone into a bloody military rule. तुमने तो बड़ी फ्रीडम डेमोक्रेसी लेके आए थे, क्या हो गया? तो व्हाट्स हैपनिंग इज यू आर नॉट एबल टू स्ट्रक्चर द वर्ल्ड जिस तरह से आप पहले यू हैड दैट फ्रीडम, जो मर्जी करना है करो, नोबडी यूज्ड टू आस्क यू अ क्वेश्चन, जो दिस दैट, इवन टिल यूक्रेन दे हैड दैट फ्रीडम. आई
You
थिंक
see,
यूक्रेन ब्रोक द बैक.
मैं इसीलिए बोल रहा हूँ कि ये दिस इज बिकॉज ऑफ द इंटरनेट, बिकॉज ऑफ अवेयरनेस. Earlier, you carried out coups and things like that. People didn't even come to know कि क्यों हुआ.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the motive behind? What is the
Mhm.
motive behind? People didn't have access. It was not there in their hand. Today, that is how people are aware. And these guys don't seem to understand that the old tactics are not going to work.
Mhm.
Right? So now what is happening in Bangladesh? Now, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, they ruined a country which was a very progressive country. Let's get it right.
And
You
there's no
know,
way to bring it back.
there's no way they were going at about 13%
Yeah, yeah.
growth,
Mhm.
right? And 13, it was the fastest growing economy because of the whatever textile industry, garment industry, and other practices that had been introduced. Now they've taken it back by a decade plus. Within 1 month, they'd slid down, and all the trade is going to come to the neighboring countries. Either it goes to Vietnam or it comes to India, right? And India being a more favored destination. So you'll find that who stands to benefit? Not the Bangladeshis, definitely the Indians. And trying to rope in Pakistan into Bangladesh is not going to work again. पाकिस्तान में है क्या? कुछ भी तो नहीं है, अभी रहा ही नहीं पाकिस्तान.
बचा कहाँ है?
पाकिस्तान को खुद नहीं पता कहाँ जा रहे हैं. Which direction are they headed? I mean, how much of bailing out will the IMF do? How much of bailing out will the Saudis do? How much of the bailing out will the Chinese do? I mean, there are two big beggars in this world. You know, एक यूक्रेन और दूसरा ये पाकिस्तान. जब देखो इनको बेल आउट ही चाहिए, इनको पैसा चाहिए बस. Yeah.
So, but then where do you see this game going? Because you also have the Russians are, I must commend Putin. I must say this, that the guy has kept his cool here. I never thought Putin would be that balanced, and I thought he was very aggressive and this and that, like everybody thinks. But the guy has kept his cool. I mean, you've attacked Russia, he's kept his cool, and even the Russian people, for that matter, they've kind of been very mature about this entire game. They've not been demanding कि nuke the bloody this thing. हमारे साथ कभी कुछ हो तो यहाँ पर तो सड़क में प्रोटेस्ट हो है, न्यूक्लियर वेपन फेंको, भैंस क्या खत्म करो कहानी. But they've been very, very mature about the game. They know this is a long game. They know half the world is against them. How do you think Putin is going to kind of play this game forward? Because one thing that we are seeing is India and Russia, that the Jodi, जो a lot of people dismissed. He's China, yes, but you can see him banking with India now. The way that Russian media is portraying India today, the way the Russian media is going against the West for India, so he's banking a lot of his eggs on India today. He's putting a lot of his eggs on Indian basket. How do you think Putin is kind of looking at this situation with India being in the game?
देखो, as far as present, that firstly there is respect.
Yeah.
Let's get it right. There is respect, mutual respect, right? And there is respect for old friendship, old ties, right?
Hmm.
The United States with India is transactional due China. You understand? If USA and India are getting close, it's because of China,
Hmm.
right? And Russia was getting dismissed in any case. Russia was a failing state, so to say, prior to Ukraine, or it
Hmm.
was a state to be dismissed. We're not talking about Russia at all earlier, but now we are. So our relationships with the United States, because of technology, because of diaspora, because of economy, because of the latest in defense technology, etc., etc. But India has maintained a balanced view on both sides. Now, how will Putin look at it? No country wants to be at war. Let's get
Yeah.
it right.
Hmm. Yeah.
Everybody wants peace in its neighborhood. Now, why did Putin? We know the reason as to why Putin went into uh, the Donbass. What was the aim? The aim was to kind of ensure that the Russian population there is safe. That's what was happening because the Russian population in the Donbass was repeatedly attacked by the Ukrainians and being sorted out. Even shelling etc. used to be carried out on these guys. So there was a lot of atrocities being carried out, and so the Russians moved in. He was there to save the people. Once he's achieved his special military operation aims, that is that the entire of Donbass, entire of Crimea, and Odessa. I'm counting Odessa because Odessa is important for Black Sea. So once these are in his control, that is the time he will agree to any terms. But this territory he will not give away.
Hmm.
This territory he will not give away. He will not accept that the NATO forces are sitting on his border. So
Correct.
he will look at neutrality. Without neutrality, he is not going to talk. Even if there is no neutrality, they will talk of a buffer zone. How large will be the buffer zone or neutral buffer zone is what we have to again
Figure out. Hmm.
figure out as to how large. I'm sure it has to be at least a minimum of 100-kilometer broad buffer zone between a militarized Ukraine and a demilitarized portion of Ukraine. So this will progress in a manner which has to be very systematic.
Hmm.
And if if I have been in power, if Russia the Putin has been in power for over nearly 2 decades, 17 years or 18 years, right? That's the length he's been in power, and he has been there. He knows, he understands geopolitics. He understands what is required to be done. He's a seasoned politician,
Yeah, yeah,
diplomat,
yeah.
whatever you want to call
Hmm.
it. He knows it all. So obviously he's calm because he understands where he stands. He's also taking pangas with Russia in the Arctic. You know that, no? Scrambling of jets and trying to shoo away the B-52 bombers uh, in the Bering
Taking
Straits.
Punjab with the Americans in the Arctic.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So he knows where he stands. His future is bright. His future is not bleak. Russia's future is not bleak. Russia's future is only bright. I'm making a huge
Hmm.
statement. He's ordered his military to be increased. Why? Now that Finland has come into the fold of NATO, he needs to guard that frontier also. Earlier, Finland was not a threat. Today, Finland also becomes a threat. So he has to increase his military. So they are playing the game well. Where will it head? How will it culminate? It will culminate in, as I just said, it has to be a ceasefire. There has to be a buffer zone. There has to be a Donbass, which is part of Russia. There has to be a buffer zone. There has to be Ukrainian neutrality, no NATO. Till such time that happens, this doesn't stop. So it's for the West to decide. They keep saying, it is Russia who can stop it in one day. Yes, Russia can stop it in one day, but that's not. He's not any general worth his
Nobody's a,
salt or any.
nobody's a fool. Yeah.
Nobody is a fool.
Nobody's a fool.
Nobody is a fool. So he has to dictate terms.
Hmm. Hmm.
And as
Hmm.
far as Kursk incursion is concerned, they'll be able to trade land for land. He's not much bothered about it. He'll bloody bombard the daylights out of those guys after a few days.
वो भी खत्म हो गया sir. वो
Uh,
भी खत्म हो गया. that
that
that that thing is over now.
that thing is over. So let's see.
Hmm.
Yeah.
My last question to you is about, if you look at I mean, our perspective again. Let's come back to India. If you look at our perspective, is very very simple. We are looking at hedging ourselves. That's what BRICS is all about. You hedge yourselves, and BRICS was created to, I think, hedge against the old world order sort of a thing. It was created for that, and with the game going forward, you can see yourself hedging there. Uh, Pakistan said we want to join. Of course, the Russians will not. Russians, as a matter of fact, say, "Oh no, no, yeah, very, very, very nice, but we need to build consensus." But there was that big but there, so that thing went out of the window. The Russians know that we need to be at the side of the Indians, and India also knows that if you kind of stand with the Russians, you have a huge power and huge force. You can counterbalance China, you can counterbalance the Americans with this, and of course, your energy supplies and this and that, which is what you need going forward, is kind of sorted out. So, what do you think you are wanting to gain out of this war, sir? One is, I mean, the Russian relation is, I think, the biggest victory out of this war. The trade relations that you built up with Russia, and as a matter of fact, the way that the Russian investment is coming into India today, the whole, that it's deepened. The relationship is actually deepened further. What do you think India is going to look out for this? What do you think we want from this war?
We want nothing, but the fact is a recognition
Peace,
of
mat
the.
bolna, sir. Peace is a.
No, no, I'm not talking peace.
हाँ,
देखो इंडिया इंडिया के साथ पीस जो है ना, दैट इज एक्सियोमेटिक.
हाँ,
Why? Because we've never crossed borders. We're not invaded countries. We don't, you know, whatever we have taken, we were returned. So, peace is axiomatic as far as India
absolutely.
is concerned,
It
right?
moves both ways. Hmm.
It moves both ways. Now,
Hmm.
what I'm wanting to say is, India is the only country which is getting recognized as a mature democracy.
Point.
You can talk of two largest democracy, United States and India, but see what's
Dialogue
happening
is.
in the you see what's
Dialogue.
happening. Ah.
Ah,
So whatever democracy in the United States, we leave it aside. But when it comes to a mature, stable democracy, it's India which is going forward,
hmm.
right? And that is what the part it wants to play as a mature nation, as a growing economic power, as the fourth largest country in the military in the world. It wants to grow economically. It wants to hedge its diplomatic power. It wants to hedge its soft power. And the fact is, we are already recognized. We are already established. We are established soft power. We are established democratic. Right now, we have to start playing our part in world geopolitics, and that is precisely what we are doing. The time has come for India to start playing a part. Till now, it was vying for recognition. That recognition is already there. Now it is playing the part. Whether it is leadership of the global South, whether it is the trying to broker peace in Ukraine, whether it is strengthening of the BRICS, whether it is the digital payments. So now we are playing our part. Now is the time to act and prove to the world that yes, we are there to make the world a better place. This is the way I would like to put it.
So you'll call this the Indian narrative.
It's not the Indian narrative, it is the Indian direction.
Interesting. Very
It's not a,
interesting.
it is not a narrative. Narrative is Angrezi. It's the direction in which India is going.
That's very interesting, sir. I must say. That actually brings about another question, if you don't mind me squeezing it in. And audience, guys, just spare me this one. Is that, in this particular region also, you will have to kind of establish yourself in a certain way, because that's something that you will need to do going forward, looking at by geopolitics kis taraf ja rahi hai, how do you kind of figure this game out. But the point is that the way that the Americans look at us, that has to change at the end of it. Whatever said and done, America is still the world leader. Okay, till the time it doesn't fall into bits, and that's something it's going to happen anytime now, because of the elections and the way they are kind of becoming polarized. Uh, the part that you will play in Ukraine will also impact what you kind of do at home, right?
Yeah.
Why am I saying this is because when you uh, let me rephrase this. You have a challenge in Bangladesh tomorrow. If you need to do something militarily, right? A lot of people will say, "Yeah, you're saying, bhai, buddy, Russia mein mat karo military action and all that. Sit down on the table and talk. और यहाँ तुम घुस गए हो उसके अंदर."
You
Now,
see, I understand the dilemma and understand what you're trying to say. That on one hand we are talking about global peace, and but when you're looking at the neighborhood, we are not wanting to resolve the issues in our neighborhood,
ah,
right?
hmm,
The neighborhood is only, these are pinpricks, right? Pakistan is a country which we don't today even look at.
hmm,
We don't
it'll
look
be,
at. We ignore it. We ignore it.
hmm,
Other than the fact that today the terrorism is taking a different shape.
yeah,
I mean, we have to deal with it in a different manner. We're not
yeah,
talking about that.
yeah.
When we're talking of you know offline, when we're talking of Maldives, it's returning back, no?
Yeah, yeah.
So let Bangladesh sort it out. Again, they will be looking at India. Without what they need, water, they need bijli, they need pani, they need food grains, they need everything. If you want India to act as a big brother, then you better behave yourself.
Behave as a small brother. Then.
Behave as a good neighbor, behave as a younger brother. Let's prosper together. But if you're going to come and make statements that we will split this and we will do this and get Pakistan to involve in get in make it, let Bangladesh become East Pakistan again and all that nonsense. If that kind of a thing is going to go around, uh, then someday you will get a whiplash, right? And which way you get it is a different story. It need not be militarily,
Hmm.
right? So anybody who's trying to finger the neighborhood and ignite, uh, we all know तुम्हारा जो भी वो क्या गहरा राज्य जो भी है, जो गहरा राज्य करना चाह रहा है वो यहाँ सक्सेसफुल होने वाला नहीं है।
नहीं है, नहीं होगा वो।
क्योंकि आप वो रिमोट से कर रहे
हम यहाँ पर हैं
हो।
यार। We stand here.
You're trying to do it remotely. It's not an authorially books anymore. You know, these are not to be picked up from old Alistair MacLean and Desmond Bagley books.
Hmm.
These are This is not fiction. This is reality on ground. You change a regime. You triggered a regime change. Fine, the regime change is happening in Bangladesh.
Then what?
Then what? Is it for the good of the country or is it for the bad of the country? Invariably, you have triggered change for the bad of the country.
Yep.
You've caused death. You've deprived people. You've closed businesses. You caused panic. You caused, I mean, havoc in a country. You haven't uplifted them. All the countries in the name of democracy have been destroyed. The so-called trying to bring about democracy, regime change करेंगे, we'll bring about democracy. वो सारी countries बर्बाद हो गई. In turn, they've been pounded. Now, would Bangladesh want to be pounded? Is a different story. Will India do it? Well, I don't think we will do it because these guys on their own should get onto the
Yeah,
correct path once
I'm
again.
quite positive about that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Time is
Interesting,
a
sir.
good healer. Time is a big
Interesting.
healer. They will also revert.
Interesting. I've been telling you this, sir. We should talk about thoda global game, because the global game is kind of going to become the big topic of discussion going forward. I think we should start doing that
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than focus on Ukraine. Ukraine is a good starting point, but I think we should start talking about the global game. Go from Europe to bloody Israel to this and that. Because yesterday, what the Israelis did, I mean, they made Hezbollah ka Hezbollah kar diya hai. In military lingo, I mentioned
Mm.
it on some other challenge. They hit the Bravo Alpha Lima Lima Sierra.
Yeah.
They literally hit it off. And
No,
fantastic.
interesting. Today, something was a company had been created long time back.
Yeah, yeah. They infiltrated a bloody battery manufacturer, put white powder into the battery covers, which
No,
is
that
supposed to be
that
anti-corrosive.
no, that is one theory. The other theory is that the company was Israeli owned,
Yeah, yeah. वो shell company थी sir.
shell company. So if you look at all that, after all, again, then the fact remains we are good friends with Israel, right?
So I said this on the first day. Hey, Pakistanis, drop your com sets. You're next. Or keep it at the arm's length. Don't tie it to your pajamas because you know what's going to happen to you.
नहीं नहीं नहीं
You know,
Pakistan is actually the grassroots level is in a very pathetic state.
it's terrible, sir.
It's terrible. A common man who's not involved in dirty politics or is not involved in the military is suffering hugely, which is a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's get into questions, guys. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. So next time we have sir, we will talk about global geopolitics. जरा मस्ती करते हैं दुनिया के साथ because this is the time for India now. ठीक है,
This is the time for India.
हमारा समय आ रहा है and now we need
आ
to kind
गया
of
आ रहा
आ
नहीं
गया
है.
actually. Let me rephrase myself. ये हमारा समय आ गया है and we need to now kind of you know
You know what we need to be doing as Indians is our mindset. We should start becoming proud of the fact that we are Indians, even more prouder day by day, because actions being taken globally and the recognition being achieved globally is something stupendous. There is a lot of respect for us as Indians.
yeah, that's true. That's true. So, guys, like, subscribe, and most importantly, share this with your friends and families. And of course, if you can, please do contribute towards this channel using the QR code or PayPal, which is in the description, or super stickers or super chats. Might I recommend please following our clips and shorts channel also. There is some very interesting shorts coming out there. तो जरा वहाँ पर भी थोड़ा follow शॉलो करिए. And of course, Instagram and Facebook is also there. I know a lot of you are not on Facebook, but you know, Instagram, if you are, please do follow there. And guys, let's get into questions. Let's see what you guys have to say. सबसे पहले, let me acknowledge 3 members. Akshay ji, thank you. Shubhankar ji and Prashant ji, thank you so much, all 3 of you, for becoming members. Partha Saab कहते हैं, Bhav Toroskar ji keeps talking about Russia's general January and February. General winter. What is this? Modi ji too naive. Military industrial complex does not want this to stop. Actually speaking, Partha ji, is the other way around. Military industrial complex sells weapons when it is tensions. So they want the war to stop, but they want the tensions to be there so that people buy their weapons. They don't like their weapons getting expended in the way that they are. Right? Remember that. It's not good advertising for them. Okay? So it's the other way around. Sir, your comment.
Yeah, military industrial complex wants to stop the war or doesn't want to stop the war. This is something which I would like to,
Please, sir.
Military industrial complex in the present circumstances wants to stop the war. Now I'll tell you why. Because their production lines are unable to meet with the requirements.
Getting very bad publicity. So,
Yeah. So the defense or the military industrial complex today is unable to cater for the requirement of the current 2 wars.
True.
So
Absolutely.
it wants it to stop. Now, the statement that you just made saying that, so they want to stop the war, but they want to keep producing because the tensions are going to remain. Now, countries which were neutral countries will also start arming themselves, arming the armed forces. So, whom will they buy their material from? From these guys. So now their business is not going to stop.
Yep.
For the time being, they want all this to stop, the war to stop, but their business was not going to stop. They wanted to stop because इनके पास साला बचा ही नहीं कुछ, बनाने में time लगता है. Production of aircraft, production of tanks, production of all this missiles. Incidentally, one Storm Shadow missile is $1 million. That's the cost.
Yeah.
So production time, cost, all that. So how many missiles? RT ammunition was also RT ammunition will be produced, right?
We are producing it.
But how much does it get used in a day?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
crazy amount.
all those who are not gunners, who do not understand, you've seen one salvo that the multiple rocket launcher system that the you keep watching on YouTube, where those
The
tubes are
Grad or
there, Grad BM 21s they are firing. So 40 rounds is one salvo. 40 rounds. That's got a 40. And how many of them are there? There are 12 to 18 firing at one time. Okay. अगर आप 18 लॉन्चर 40 राउंड निकालोगे तो कितने हो गए आप हिसाब लगा लो 720 तो एक ही बारी में निकल गया ना एक बैटरी एक बैटरी जो है जब फायर करेगी ठीक है 1 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर में तो उसकी तबाही 1 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर में होगी 6 गन्स फायर 6 फायर करेंगे 1 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर एरिया में उसको लेवल करेंगे अगर 6 भी फायर करती है 6 × 40 इज 240
wow.
तो मैंने एक फायर असॉल्ट की बात की है अब कितने फायर असॉल्ट होते हैं और कितनी रिक्वायरमेंट है आर्टी शेल्स की दैट इज अप टू यू टू फैथम
Sheesh. That's a lot of firepower, yeah. Yikes. Mitesh Patel Saab, I absolutely agree with you. Please do a show on Orisha. It's the same what the lady has gone through. Are they there to protect the people or harass them? There should be CCTVs. I'm going to get somebody who's going to talk a little more. मैं शाम को किसी से बात कर रहा था. I absolutely find that incident to be ridiculous. And trust you me, जिस दिन फौज ने जवाब दे दिया ना उस दिन रो देंगे लोग. ठीक है, this is condemnable. There's just nothing more to say about it. Would you want to add anything or should I move forward, sir?
you move forward on this
Sanjay ji, thank you so much for your contribution. Dr. MPC, thank you so much. Sir, why does geopolitics today resemble illogical schoolyard groups, gangs, and quarrels? Are these just overgrown childish egos clashing? I think he's hit the nail on the head, right?
absolutely I mean the way you put it Dr. Saab is very interesting
Bloody
but the
hell.
fact is that today you tend to realize as to how immaturish and how childish and people are behaving. One never thought of political leaders to be talking and acting like this, and totally agree with you.
Uh,
And
Dr.
you
MPC
see,
Saab, if I was wearing a hat, I would have taken it off for you. This comment
no,
is
no, no,
superb.
no. The thing is, now I made a statement about Putin. He's not playing it. He's not acting like a kid. He's not jumping. He's not jumping around, right? Rest all of them are bloody clowns. What's happening
Hmm.
in the US is all, Zelensky himself is a comic, right? And you see all the leaders over there, pretty immature.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with you.
Uh, Akshay ji says, do you think Russia's hope to push NATO at least to the Dnieper River if Ukraine is added to NATO?
Obviously, they want to come next to the Dnieper and sit next to it, and that is why the Russians would want a buffer zone.
Hmm.
If I were on the Russian side, I would like to be sitting on my. I would not be looking at Donbass. I would be looking at the Dnieper River.
Hmm.
I would want to have a clear cut defined boundary. East and West Europe, East and West Ukraine, the eastern part with Russia and the western part with Ukraine.
Another
And
Germany in the making.
yeah, and this is quite a possibility if it is not stopped now.
Rohit Saab says, will we see Russia and Ukraine having dialogue and diplomacy here in Delhi?
Can't say, but can't rule out either.
Interesting. Rajesh ji says, will Bharat supply artillery shells to the US, which have been diverted to Ukraine against Russia, while USA is targeting our NSA?
You see, these are now there's a statement which has come about RT shells being diverted or being supplied by India to Ukraine and Russia not liking it and stuff like that.
Bullshit.
This has been this Reuters report which has come
Yeah.
about. Now these are again leaks. These are not leaks. These are irritants.
Funnily, some
Without
stupid Indian has written that, sir, by the way.
he's paid यार साला वो भी तो उसने नौकरी करना है ना तो he has to create something to he, he must have been told come out with something very very interesting otherwise you're out of it. So obviously he's invented something. But
Yeah.
yes, third party transfers do take place. I mean, uh, if somebody has done it on a clandestine manner, well, he'll be sorted out by the government in any case if it has been done, because no such thing would have been done with the concurrence of the government of India. And if it has not been done with the concurrence of India, that company is going to be penalized some way or the other.
This is a bit political, but I want to take the essence of this question, sir. It says Putin has come out to bash Raga as a stooge of anti-Bharat elements. Is it to try and curry favor in neutral negotiations? Why is Russia so pro-India in terms of the anti-India attacks which are coming out, sir?
Oh, you see, India and Russia, they understand each other. The Russians understand India. And obviously they will side with you, and they know the truth, and they know the it is it's like you've been friends all your life. That doesn't mean you have disagreements on certain things. You will get chided on certain things. This is not a time for war, etc. So, but at the same time there's a mutual respect. How can you tolerate somebody saying something against India when it's not true? And Raga, in any case, the lesser said the better, because he's no emissary of India. I mean, he's a poor reflection of an Indian. उसको तो क्या बोलेंगे?
Shankar Saab says, why is US increasing war effort before Kazan? That is understandable. Likewise, why is Putin increasing his rhetoric before the US election? Also understandable.
This is this is geopolitics, no? This is geopolitics, and if you are sensible enough, you will do it at the right. The timing is important,
Yeah.
and you will make the best of
But good
chaos.
observation.
Yeah.
Good observation. Kapil Saab, seeing you after a while, sir. He says, Sir, Modi ji has a visit to Zelensky in US along with Bangladeshi Nobel Prize winner, and heard from ISPR students some protests are going to go on against Modi. What do you think of this? More the protest, the better it is, yaar. I think this time the chakka jam ho jana chahiye Modi साहब के चक्कर में America में. That will tell you how powerful Modi is.
You see, you can do what you feel like. Uh, as I said, there are always meetings on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly whenever it convenes in the month of September, and there are always protests. It's
But there
very
is no
interesting.
meeting with the Nobel Peace Prize. That has been refused.
Yeah. So when you're talking of protests, if you've been to the United Nations, ahead of the building there's this road, and across the road there's a barricade, and on the other side of the barricade there are areas earmarked where people get together and with placards, and they keep shouting and they keep talking, and the media comes and clicks photographs. 10 people are made to look like 100, and that is how the protests take place over there. And time
Guts.
slots are given. Time slots have to be allocated. They're
Yeah.
allocated for A protest, B protest, C protest. So it's nothing very
Business.
significant.
हाँ, business है एकदम business.
Business है.
Gatsya ji says, Major General sir and Adi Bhaiya, I want to know how much Chinese lost their grounds in this geopolitical game. They suddenly are trying to butter Bharat, even knowing we will not trust them.
No, the Chinese have not lost anything. On the contrary, uh, the Chinese have started understanding geopolitics a shade
A
better,
little better, yeah.
right? And they have understood that it is better to be on the side of India than to be against India. And it is not the question of buttering. They very well know we do not trust them, but they have come to realize that if we have to remain in the game, then we have to be on the same side, or at least be friends with India. And I
Makes
think
sense.
this stands to the advantage of India as well. While you know you de-escalate from the borders, you pull back, de-escalate, you come to certain things, and economically you grow. And on the side, you make sure that there are no border conflagrations which take place, and there is peace and tranquility, and it goes at a pace which is acceptable. So this is, I think, this is mature
Chinese have
politics.
become understood realpolitik rather than.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
थोड़ा अच्छा
earlier
लगी है.
they've always remained in a cocoon, the
Hmm.
Chinese, with their own particular mindset. So now that they are getting involved and they're trying to understand the game, they have found the importance of India. And I think it's a win-win situation for both countries, provided there is de-escalation on the border and there's resolution of the boundary disputes.
True. Vivek Singh Saab says, "Don't you think Russia is going to leave? Don't think Russia is going to leave any of the territories already assimilated in their maps as per their country law and resolutions."
I agree
That's
with
true.
you. They want to add more, yeah.
Yeah. Lankia supercluster. I'm seeing new. I mean, so many people after such a long time. Hati chale apni raha. Let Hati chale apni raha. Let dogs bark.
Yeah.
That's, I think, a very very sane advice.
Yeah, it's just
Mm.
you ignore the people.
Yeah, Shailendra Gaur sir says, Jan sir and Adi, strategically, Russia has created a space, but NATO is not in the position till deep state think they will succeed in their plan. Almost 42% mineral wealth in control. Your view?
Absolutely, Russia is not going to give away the territory that they've got. So
Hmm.
if 42% of the mineral wealth is in control, 20% of the territory is in their control, and NATO unfortunately is struggling to survive. It had it was nearing death. It has been revived, and now it is reaching a stage that if there is the outcome of this is clearly in favor of Russia, NATO is going to lose uh, respect. I would put it this way.
Going to
Militarily, it may continue.
gone.
Militarily, it may grow, but they can keep building their capabilities for the future and feel good about it, and that's about all. बट इसका
Har-
एक चीज याद रखना, ये नेटो वाला जो है, दिस विल चेंज.
Oi.
Today it's looking eastwards.
It'll change northwards.
It will change northwards, and that's how they got Finland and Sweden into the fold.
Harshal Saab, thank you. He says, I've posted my. Oh, yeah, your question I've actually shortlisted. Hi, sir. What's happening? What's stopping Ukraine from destroying the Kerch Bridge using Western weapons? Are Western weapons not capable of hitting it throughout these years?
No, they're making all the efforts. I mean, I don't know how come they've not been able to do it, but I think they've attempted thrice, they've hit it thrice, and they're wanting to do more.
I think that's a
There are,
big red line. If they hit that, the Russians, you know
yeah,
what's going to happen after that.
Russia, yeah.
Yeah. Sarita ji says, Adi, looks like none of those NATO chiefs want to end the war to finish Ukraine and get all the minerals from Ukraine.
You're very right. They don't want the war to finish, because if they did, they'll have to revert back to their native countries and hold certain portfolios which will be of very less importance. They don't want the war to end.
Latachi says, is Netanyahu's position a bit better now? Yeah, I would say
Yeah,
yes.
yes. I mean, the current situation, yes. And Netanyahu, again, is a strong leader. And despite all, the anger against him, he's still standing, and he's standing firm with his commitment.
Second last question, sir. Ketan Saab says, is it possible that our government was informed about special military action of Russia into Ukraine to hedge our support or at least be neutral?
Well,
Someday, God willing, if I meet Modi ji, I'm going to ask him, साहब बाकी सब छोड़ो, पुतिन ने बताया था क्या आपको? Because
नहीं, ये सब चीजें ना इंटरनेशनली नहीं बताई जाती, आपको फीलर्स दिए जाते हैं,
yeah,
बताई नहीं. And it is for your intelligence agencies to pick up the threads. Every country is under watch. Every country you keep an eye on. Every country you look at what's happening, and regular briefings take place. कि ये हो सकता है, ये होने वाला है. So that is the competence of our intelligence agencies for the correct making the right briefings. That is why you have embassies, and then you have consulates and all over. You think they're not just there for giving you visas, right? Or for business. So there are reports which come on the ground swell what is happening, and
sir,
that is how the government remains updated on likelihood of actions, likelihood of what is happening,
sir.
and we are good
Batraji,
at it.
Batraji Maro's a hard one. He says 199th method of regime change. Don't try it with India. Gene Sharp's 198 methods of regime change.
No, they uh, they are trying it. No, they
They're
have a
trying it. It's not going to work.
they have a puppet in place,
Oh,
and
they have multiple in place, sir.
multiple, but the biggest one they have been able to place on the opposite side.
Yeah.
So they have their assets in place. They're trying the level best. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for this. And if you're free next week, we should let's do global geopolitics. एक बारी देखें जरा दुनिया किस तरफ, how the global order is going to shift. If you're around, let me
Roger.
know. Or should I
Right.
fix it for next week and announce it, guys? Next week, Thursday, we
Okay.
will talk global geopolitics. So, bada, let's do the big game. Okay? Let's try and find out what's happening. And one of the things that we need to kind of understand with global geopolitics is that world order. Okay, by that time, Modi Saab would have finished his visit to America, and there'll be a lot of stuff that will come out. A lot of this UN General Assembly would have also finished. A lot of stuff would have come out, and I think somewhere down the line, I think we will know what's happening with Israel and that entire region as well. Sir, thanks so much. Jai Hind.
Right. Thank you, Adi.
Jai
Thank
Bharat.
you. It's been wonderful chatting up. Okay. All the best. Take care.
Sir.